Welcome. We'll get started shortly. Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcp.com. And now, on to the event.
Welcome. You are joining our session titled Driving Seven-Figure Success with G-Accon, your fractional CFO's tool of choice, presented by G-Accon. I'm Heather Smith and I'm the host for today's session. The agenda for today's session is quite straightforward. In the first half, Sonia Yazdi, the Client Success Manager at G-Accon, will provide an overview of G-Accon and its features and benefits. She'll demonstrate automated data sync, building custom accounting reports and queries, consolidated data from multiple company accounts, using templates, saving, sharing, and reusing templates. Then we shall be joined by Michael King, the CEO of KFE Solutions, a top-rated fractional CFO firm in Dallas, Texas, and founder of the CFO Accelerator. So let me take a moment to introduce you to a little about today's presenters. So firstly, me. I'm Heather Smith and I'm a chartered accountant and certified bookkeeper and BAS agent. I've run a management accounting digital practice for 2 decades. I specialize in navigating the business app ecosystem. I produce an accounting apps newsletter, an accounting apps podcast, and host a community focused on accounting apps. I'll pop the links into the chat area so you can discover them. But that's enough about me. I'm delighted to introduce you to our very special guest today, Michael King. Michael is the CEO of KFE Solutions, top-rated fractional CFO firm in Dallas, Texas. He's also the creator of the CFO Accelerator, which helps accountants and fractional CFOs start and scale and optimize their advisory services. He hosts the CFO Report, where he shares tips, tricks, and hacks he discovered over the past 7 years building his fractional CFO firm. And I suggest you grab your mobile phone and subscribe to the CFO Report right now as I say welcome to Michael.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, I'd also like to introduce you to Sonia Yazdi. Sonia is the Client Success Director at G-Accon, based in Austin, Texas. She's a proud alumna, I hope I've said that correctly, of Michigan State University. She utilizes G-Accon almost daily and is keen to assist with any G-Accon related needs. So I'd like to hand over to Sonia. And while she's doing her demonstration, I encourage you to chat in the chat area, ask questions in the chat area, and I invite Michael to bring in any commentary as she's going through the demonstration. So over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you guys all for coming. So to get us started, I'm going to start with demoing G-Accon's automated data sync. So this is our two-way sync. It's a powerful tool that helps you easily and quickly bulk import, edit, and delete data in QuickBooks Online directly from your Google Sheets. This helps not only reduce time, but reduce the human error that comes along with manual data entry. If I could transition over to my sheets, I'll show you guys how to get started on that. Navigating to the G-Accon for QuickBooks extension in your Google Sheets, you're going to head over to Get Accounting Data/Reports and then Get Accounting Data. So this is first pulling the data as it exists from your QuickBooks Online account. Scrolling through the different objects here, you can see just how many items you can pull from QuickBooks, edit, and then push back into QuickBooks. To get started for us today, I'm going to select Invoices. Once you have your accounting object selected, it's going to present you with all of those related attribute fields. So with these, you can either select all, deselect all, expand these fields, go through and select the particular items you would like included or not included, and then go ahead and play around with your date range up at the top here. So in our case, I'm going to go ahead and select balance. Let's grab our customer information here, customer name. Awesome. Deposit, due date. Just grabbing all of my important fields here, email. Scrolling on down, invoice ID, invoice number. In the line items, now these are the items that you might want to be modifying or updating and then pushing back into QuickBooks Online. We're going to grab our item ID, item name, quantity, unit price, and then our last and not least, total amount. Awesome. Once we have all of our attribute fields selected, over here in the pull settings is where you can not only give your template a name, this just makes it easier to find, save, and automate later in time, but you can play around with the formatting based settings. In these bottom two sections, this is where you can filter your data and organize your data by those related attribute fields, helping you hone down exactly what you might be looking for to then modify, add to, delete, and then push back into QBO. Hitting execute on this report, we get our data exactly as we like it. And then over here, you can see we've got our line invoice description item here. This is what I'm going to go ahead and modify for you guys and push right back into QuickBooks. So call this earmark webinar demo live. And then to push this update back into QuickBooks, I'm just doing the one line item for demo's sake here. But again, as I mentioned, this can absolutely be done in bulk for items out of QBO. We are going to select our upload template here. So once this loads up for us, you can see with the row selection mode, you could absolutely go ahead and select all rows, new rows, or specify a data range or row numbers. Again, I'm just going to keep it at currently selected for demo's sake. Next, we want to make sure our QuickBooks object lines up. So we first pulled invoices. We would now like to push invoice data back into QuickBooks. And the operation we're going to utilize here is update, as we are updating an existing record. Lastly, we want to make sure that the address of our first table header cell lines up accordingly at A2, which will give us our results in column Q. All being said and done, going to go ahead and execute and save. And we can see over here our results in a matter of minutes. We have that invoice ID for us here, success true, created false, and the date and timestamp of exactly when that operation happened. Heading into QuickBooks real quick, just to show you guys how easy and seamless the process really is. We've got our newly updated invoice here with that newly updated description, earmark webinar demo live. So that covers our two-way sync and just a quick little example on how to use it. We can head on back over to our slides. I will take us into how to start building custom accounting reports. So getting into the custom accounting reports, these are a really valuable collection of reports, giving you a granular look at your financial obligations and assets. This can assist in getting an overall general understanding of where your cash flows, payables, and receivables may lie, and how to strategically manage those items. To get a look at how we can build those custom reports, we're going to head back into our sheets and navigate back to our G-Accon for QuickBooks extension, head on over to Get Accounting Data and Reports, and then head into our custom accounting reports. To give you a quick idea of just how granular this data can get, I'm going to go ahead and run a really detailed report, being our detailed transaction report. But right off the bat, heading into this list, you can see just how many reports you are able to choose from here. And they've got varying levels of categorization and detail available to you. Like I said, I'm going to head into something with quite a bit of detail, being our detailed transactions report. I'm going to go ahead and set it to this quarter. And you can see here just how custom you can create this report to be. All these fields by default will have everything selected, but you can go into each and every one and truly hone down the data to find exactly what you might be looking for. Heading into our pull settings, again, these are formatting-based settings, so kind of completely up to you and how you would like the report to ultimately look and feel once it is run. And again, I do always like to give my reports and templates a name just as a best practice.
I imagine customizing reports is something that you do quite a lot, Michael.
Actually, not a ton. And so what I found is when we think about, I know you and I will get more into this later, but what I found is if you want to build a firm that's actually scalable, where you're minimizing the amount of hours you have to work every single month, that constantly creating custom reports isn't the key to unlocking that. Creating custom reports isn't the key to unlocking higher monthly recurring revenue on a per client basis. The key is to figure out exactly what is that most simple data set of information your clients need every single month so that you can tell the story of the financials and that they can use it to make better decisions in the business. So all that being said, what is important and why G-Accon is so important is in the early days of starting your firm, when you're trying to figure out what is that data, it will pay dividends for years to come if you think through what do those reports need to look like? What are those custom reports that I need with just the most simple data set possible? And then use G-Accon just one time to build out those reports that are going to really align with your firm and your customers' needs. And then you put it on autopilot for years. And that's where I think the magic of these reports really comes in, is you put a little bit of time up front learning how to create these reports in G-Accon, figuring out what resonates with your clients, and then you set it and forget it. That's where I think that some of the real value of this comes in. It's not in the ongoing customization. It's getting it dialed in simple in the beginning and then reaping the results of that for years to come.
Magic.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And it's reports like these here, this detailed transaction report, as you can see, it's giving you a lot of data. But I've seen, people like Michael King here and clients of ours get really creative with the data here. And once they figure out what works, they set up a nice, either a dashboard or chart or template for their clients, and then automating all of that good stuff. You're, like Michael just said, then you're good to go for years to come. So yeah, absolutely. Got a plethora of data here being pulled out of your QBO. And then if we hop back into our slides here for a second, I'll go ahead and show you how to pull a report not only for one entity connected out of QBO, but multiple entities connected out of QBO. So as you can see here, we can pull consolidated reports across multiple companies connected out of QBO. These are great for investors, creditors, and stakeholders to get an optimal financial look at the strategic and financial decision-making going on across all connected entities. So hopping back into our sheets, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how we can run such a report. Making sure that all of your wanted entities are connected to G-Accon, we're going to head right on over to that same Get Accounting Data and Reports section and hit Consolidated Reports. So you can see that first section here, it's asking me which particular entities I've got connected I'd like to use in running this report. I've got two. These are my two little demo organizations. Once I've got those selected, you'll head on over and select the particular report that you would like to run. In our case here, I'm going to go for cash flow by company. And I am going to go for this month with the past 6 previous periods being the past 6 previous months. Again, having everything selected up here, we'll head on over to our pull settings. We can call this consolidated earmark demo, and then go ahead and execute our report. So as this loads up for us, you're going to see, because this is a cash flow by company report, we're going to have our data nicely laid out. And you can see already going on right here. We've got G-Accon versus QBO demo versus our total here. So you're getting 3 total columns per month, separating the data out nicely for you to see. And like Michael had mentioned, this is, again, a pretty powerful report here that you could absolutely build off of, set to automate with a workflow, and you'll be good to go in terms of reporting purposes to whoever it might be on the receiving end.
And so someone's asked a good question.
So speaking of making custom.
Sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
Someone's asked a good question, and maybe Michael, you could answer it. How do you actually deliver the reports that Sonia is kind of generating? How do you deliver them to clients? Do you export them to PDF? Do you make them prettier?
So we've set up a minimal amount of beautification, or making them prettier. But I find that in our industry, we tend to over-index on making things look prettier with better colors and better backgrounds and those kind of things. And those tend to be a little bit helpful, maybe in a sales presentation, but in an ongoing, advisory service delivery, the clients over time, very quickly actually, will stop caring about how pretty it is, and they start asking questions of like, what do I do in the business tomorrow different than I did today as a result of what's in these reports? And so I just want to caution listeners, if you find yourself tinkering with hex codes to make the colors a little bit brighter or a little bit more neutral or a little bit more or less on brand, you're probably focused on the wrong things. What you really want to spend your time on is asking yourself, how are my clients going to be able to use what they see in this report to increase cash flows, to increase profitability so that they can hit their personal goals? Now that soapbox is complete, to circle back to the question at hand, we actually have these delivered in a very templated out Google Sheet that I call our CFO report. And I know, Heather, you and I are going to go a little bit more into detail on this later in the call, but we just do a screen, like a live screen share right from our Google Sheet that has 7 or 8 tabs on it. And we use that to basically become the agenda for our monthly call with our clients. We go from tab to tab to tab, and we have a very tried and true kind of storytelling process that we use as we go through the Google Sheets with our custom reports on them.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Awesome. Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback on that, in our workflow automation tool that we're going to get into in just a second here, there is a sharing option included in that. So not only is it automating the data, but it can also automate that send out in various formats to whoever you'd like to be receiving that data on that consistent schedule. So great question there. Thank you, Michael, also for your insight there. It's awesome to hear. So speaking of custom reports and using them again in the future, and perhaps sharing them with your team, if we head on back over to our slides here, we're going to talk about our cloud template libraries. So G-Accon does come with 3 different built-in libraries of sort, if you will. So we've got our cloud template library being pre-built templates done by the G-Accon team. So you can customize them from there. These are kind of, jumping points to get you started. So you can absolutely take a moment to browse through our preset library. We've got upload templates, how to convert QBO to 0 data, and vice versa, if that's a switch that you might be making, in addition to our KPI dashboard package pre-built templates. So we do offer KPI dashboards, again, as a jumping point of sorts, just to spark some inspiration in what you could really do with the data ultimately. And that is all in our G-Accon Cloud Template Library. That all being said, we've got our Workspace Cloud Template Library, and this is your own, the user's own custom cloud template library, where you can save your own custom templates, something kind of Michael had touched on earlier, where you find out what works, what works for your business and your accounting processes. You can go ahead and save that particular report setup and template to either share with your team members internally or ultimately use again in the future. Really, really handy feature there, and saves you the time of having to remake a custom report that you want to use again. And then lastly, we got our batch cloud template library. This isn't a library of sorts. It's the same as your Workspace Cloud Template Library. However, it just allows you to run those custom templates that you have set up in a batch all at once through the click of a button. So if you know you've got 3 reports that you'd like to run across various entities connected out of QBO, for example, really handy tool there. You can just switch organization, head into your batch cloud template library, select the reports that you'd like to run, hit execute, and you're good to go with 3, 4, 5 plus different reports per entity. So really, really handy feature. I would love to show you how it works. Let's hop back into our sheets and we'll use this cash flow custom report here as an example. So just going to edit templates for current sheet. We're going to get our side window pop up here. And you will see that consolidated earmark demo report. That is our cash flow by company report that we have run. So to save this, I'm going to go to this little cloud icon and I'm going to name it. We'll call it custom consolidated earmark. Awesome. Give it a name, description, hit save. We're going to get that successfully saved message up there. Amazing. So now regardless of what workbook I am in, what company I am currently connected to, who I am under my G-Accon subscription package, as long as I am a part of the package using G-Accon and Google Sheets, I will always have access to this workspace cloud template library where I have saved my custom accounting report. Hopping in here real quick, showing you guys what it looks like. We've got various features here. So as you can see, you can label and organize your reports within the cloud template library. Heading on over to that last page, here's our custom consolidated earmark report. If I wanted to run this, I would just give this a click. That same accounting template would pop up for us and we could execute from there. Or if I wanted to share this with myself or members of my team, I could go ahead and do so by specifying email or just going ahead and sharing with everybody under my G-Accon subscription package. That all being said and done, I will give us a quick peek at the G-Accon Cloud Template Library just to show you guys some of our pre-built reports, and then we'll head on back over to the slides. So just hopping in here real quick, you can see various upload and update templates right off the bat, in addition to those KPI dashboard specific reports that we have set up for you under that search term KPI. So we got our profit and losses, statement of cash flows, so on and so forth. Like I said, great jumping point if you're looking for a place to start. Heading back into our slides, let's get into our automation tools. So the good stuff. This is how to automate all of the reports and items that you have executed with G-Accon. Really, really powerful tool here. I know we've talked about it a few times now at this point, where if you find what works, helping your business run just more efficiently overall is setting up based on what you know works, automating that base data or source data so that you're constantly getting a fresh set of data to share out with clients or your internal team, and getting that all set to go. And you don't really have to manually touch anything for days, years, months to come. With our workflows, like I mentioned, it not only automates them, but it also does give you the option to share those updated data reports, set alerts on the reports, and even create backups of the reports. So heading back on over to our sheets one more time here, I'll show you guys how we can automate. All right, getting into G-Accon for QuickBooks, we'll go to automation, create workflow. So this is our automation tool. And you'll notice in here, you can literally automate just about everything in G-Accon, whether it be that data pool that we kind of started with at the beginning, all the way over to our custom accounting reports, whatever it may be, you are always welcome to have the freshest set of data out of QBO. So getting started, I'm just going to give it a name. The status you can set to not active if you're not ready for it to start running yet. And then this operations log, I like to keep on. It's turned on by default. I think it's a best practice just to keep it on. Looks something like this here, where you get date and timestamp of when your workflow started to run, which particular reports are updated, and when that came to a successful end. Really nice audit of sorts, not only for yourself, but anyone you might be sharing this data with. And then lastly, on this first page is our scheduler. So your workflow can run anywhere from 3 hours on the hourly basis, all the way over to a monthly basis and anywhere in between. In our case here, let's say daily around 6 a.m., a little bit before our workday, and move on to page 2. So page 2 is going to show you all of your executed reports in this workbook. You can see here, we've got that invoice data pull. We can bring that on over to be automated in addition to our detailed transactions report, and then that cash flow by company report, that consolidated report that we ran. So as you can see, you can either drag and drop or select the items that you'd like included and hit this arrow. Main concept being those that you want included in that 6 a.m. daily workflow process are pulled on over to the right-hand side. Once that's all said and done, page 3 is that sharing option I was mentioning earlier. This is where you can input email recipients to your liking. You can put multiple people up here. They do not need to be G-Accon users. This is absolutely anyone you'd like to share the data with. Whoever you specify in this to field up at top is going to receive an email once the workflow runs and the data is updated. So it's going to send out to all these recipients with the subject and message of your liking. And then you do have the option to share that data not only as a live spreadsheet link, but as an Excel file, CSV file, and 2 different formats of PDF. Really handy feature there, depending on preferences or the other data you may have stored in your Google Sheets there. This is that alert feature I was talking about. So for a very quick example, this is particularly handy when you want to keep your eye on a set of data as it updates throughout time. Let's say, for example, we'd like to look at net income for G-Accon in January of 2024 out of this cash flow report. I'm selecting the cell or range of cells I'd like to keep an eye on. Don't need to type anything in, just hitting this icon here. It recognizes the sheet and cell that I am currently on. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a condition here. Being a number, let's say if that number goes anywhere over that negative 502 value, I would like to be alerted of it. So setting up my condition here. By default, your own email is going to be included, but the same logic applies where you can add anybody else who you'd like to receive this alert, and then give yourself a little alert message. Net income for G-Accon, Jan 2024 is over. Go look, for example there. So creating that alert rule, we've got it set in stone. If 6 a.m. of tomorrow morning rolls around and for whatever reason that net income for January 2024 meets my condition, goes over 504 or negative 504, I will be receiving this alert along with anybody else I choose to include by email. You can set up to 20 of these per workflow. You can absolutely disperse them across reports. They don't need to be in the same report by any means. But like I said, particularly handy when you're keeping your eye on a particular set of data within this vast accumulation of data. Page 5 is webhooks. I'm not going to get into them in too much detail today. These are a little more technically intensive, utilizing Google Apps Scripts. If that's something you're familiar with, please head on over to the G-Accon website or reach out to myself or one of our team members. We're happy to walk through this in detail with you. They're not pertinent though. You can absolutely skip over and still have your workflow function properly. Last but not least, we got our backups. I know that QBO does backups of accounting reports. However, they start to self-delete after a given amount of time. Our backups don't do that. So if you turn this on, every time the workflow runs, it's going to create a static copy of that data and back it up into a static workbook that's stored in your Google Drive. Great way to get a historical look at your data as it has updated throughout time. Again, this is something I've seen people do really creative things with, such as, compiling data that has been updating over the course of 6+ months, creating something of a cash flow model off of it, forecasting model, and so on. So uses for G-Accon and the data that you might pull with it really are endless. Imagination's the limit there, but we got our workflow up and running, and that's that. So all of these custom reports that we've set up and anything we may have built off of them are going to update on that 6 a.m. daily basis. So that's the general overview of functions and features and how to get started with G-Accon. Let's head on over back to our slides, see how it can be put to use in real life.
And so this is Michael's custom CFO report dashboard. Does that look familiar to you, Michael?
It looks familiar. This has been the same dashboard that we've been using for, gosh, I would say 6 years now. And the thing that's kind of, I think, interesting or surprising to a lot of people in our industry is the simplicity of it. And so now, just to be clear, this is the first tab in our broader CFO report. And we call this tab the critical 4. And really all we're looking at here are 2 things. One is that at the very top, you'll notice it is the numerical values of revenue, gross profit, net profit, and cash for a rolling 13-month period. And so one of the first questions that comes up is, well, gosh, why do you use a 13-month period? Well, I like to be able to show our clients, okay, last month was May. I want to show you May of 2024 versus May of 2023 so they can see that year-over-year comparison, and then the 11 months that fall in between those. So again, at the top, it's that rolling 13 months of revenue, gross profit, net profit, and cash. And then we've just taken those same numbers and shown them graphically down below. And we found that there's a lot more power in the graphical representation of those numbers because it's so much easier to spot trends. And so you're much easier and much more quickly able to kind of see what's going on graphically in those 6 graphs than you are just looking at a table of numbers up above. But the question again that comes up is, well, gosh, that's a really simple set of metrics to look at. But I always challenge people. I say, well, isn't it true that if you have a client, and it doesn't matter really what industry they're in, but isn't it true that if you had a client that could explain how every single decision they make in their business impacts revenue, gross profit, net profit, and cash, you would have a significantly smarter, better informed client base than probably anybody else. If your clients know is they're making hiring decisions, marketing spend decisions, firing decisions, investment decisions, how are those decisions going to impact revenue, gross profit, net profit, and cash? They will be able to make much, much better decisions. And so we think that, and we found just through working with hundreds of clients over 8 years now, that we actually just turned 8 years old, that just by empowering our clients with those very basic core or critical set of metrics, they're able to wrap their heads around it and they feel more empowered day in and day out. So we start off with this CFO report, the Critical 4 dashboard, on literally every single call we make. And then a lot of people are like, well, that's for small businesses. What about big businesses? We've got multiple 8-figure businesses that are in various industries. We still start off the call with the same review of the Critical 4 financial metrics. And I can tell you, our average client sticks around for about 4 to 4.5 years. Not once in the last 8 years, we've been using this particular set of data for 5.5 years. Not once has a client said, this is a little too basic. Let's move on to the more advanced stuff. Because the advanced stuff is kind of hidden within this, and the ability to make those decisions and understand kind of how these Critical 4 impact them. It's a very simple metric, but it's a very powerful metric if you as the fractional CFO will continuously help them understand how all their decisions impact these 4 numbers. So we start off here. And again, the cool part about this is G-Accon automates this for us. We don't have a team of people on the back end that are crunching numbers and exporting CSV files and then uploading CSV files and validating the data. This is just done automatically every single month by G-Accon across our entire client base.
And I think one of the key things that you said there was you've kept it simple and you're helping your clients understand it. So there is a lot of education and making them feel comfortable in understanding that before they perhaps get into maybe the deeper dive.
I think that's actually a really important point that you bring up, Heather, because I think that there's a lot of times a misconception around the value of the fractional CFO. And a lot of times for people that are just kind of getting into advisory services or people that have recently started or thinking about starting, we think that the value we provide our clients is in the reports. And frankly, reports like ours, and I would argue any other report, are commodities. Anybody can make reports. The real value, the thing that the clients keep coming back for over and over again, month after month, year after year, is the insights that you as the fractional CFO are able to pull out of the reports. It's the perspectives, it's the trends and those little nuances that you as the fractional CFO with your 10, 15, 20 years of experience are able to identify. And so I just like to encourage people, don't get so caught up in the report generation. And like we talked about earlier, the beautification of the reports. I would argue, let G-Accon create the reports. You should be spending the bulk of your time preparing for CFO calls on identifying those insights, looking for those potholes that are coming down the road, looking for those things that, those opportunities for the business to pivot. Don't worry about how pretty the report is. Worry about how impactful those insights are that you can provide as a result of the reports.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can I get you to sort of pull back a bit for our audience? We've got a lot of people on the call today. Can you share with our audience how you explain what a fractional CFO is?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I would say if you are somebody that does fractional CFO work or you're thinking about it, make sure that you've got a pen and a paper out and write this down right now, because this is going to become a very important story to tell during the prospecting and sales process, because it's a natural question. Sometimes it's the first question that comes up. It's, oh, cool, fractional CFO. That sounds sexy. What is it? What does that even mean? And so having this answer in your back pocket is really, really important as you progress through your fractional CFO career. So this is how I explain it, Heather. Most everybody is already familiar with bookkeepers and tax preparers. So I like to anchor them off of that. So this is kind of what I say. They say, okay, well, what's a fractional CFO? And I say, that's a great question. Can I assume that you have right now, or you have had in the past, a bookkeeper or a tax preparer? And almost invariably, they say, yes, of course. And I say, well, the work that a bookkeeper and a tax preparer does is very, very important, because it tells you how you've done in the past. It tells you what was your revenue and your profitability last month or last quarter or last year. They're reporting on what happened in the past. That information is important to tax preparers, because they go tell the government, how did you do last year? And based on that, that informs how many taxes you owe. That work is really, really important. But also, let me ask you this. Can I also assume that as a business owner, your goals, your ambitions, those things that you're trying to build, those all live in the future? Is that correct? And of course, they say yes. And say, well, where a bookkeeper and a tax preparer are reporting on what happens in the past, kind of rear view mirror looking, a fractional CFO comes in and helps you look into the future and make decisions that are going to help your business get there. And so an example of that might be, you're thinking about growing your business this year. And in order to grow, you need to hire some more help. But a lot of times as we're thinking about hiring, we get a little bit freaked out because, gosh, do we have enough profitability to afford to hire? Do we have enough cash in the bank that if something goes wrong, we're not going to put our business in undue jeopardy? How much money should I have before I do this? There's all these questions about what you should do today and what the impact of those decisions is going to be in the future. And are those decisions going to ultimately help you achieve your goals? That's where the fractional CFO comes in and helps you make more informed decisions today that will ultimately help you achieve those goals 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years into the future.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure people found it useful. Now, I wonder, Sonia, are you able to take the slide down so we come full vision? I don't know if you can or not.
Yep.
There we are. So this may be more of a statement than a question. How important is it for those fractional CFOs who are looking into the future to surface clean, accurate, and fast information to support them in advising their clients?
We are dead in our tracks, Heather, if we don't have accurate, timely, and reliable data to do our forecast, to do our projections, to help clients with setting goals. So I would argue that there's maybe nothing more important than those things that you just described. Like we've got to have access to accurate and timely data, which again is why something like G-Accon and why we've used G-Accon for years now is so important. Because as a fractional CFO, one of the things that I've learned is really is we're getting our clients' data prepared and our forecast and projections each month. One of the most time-intensive processes in that endeavor is the preparation of the reports. And what we found years ago is, gosh, if we're spending all our time just getting the reports ready, then that means that we're not doing that high-value work that our clients are paying us for. And the other thing that comes along with that, Heather, is when humans do human work, humans make human errors. And it doesn't matter how much time or how meticulous you are, we're prone to make mistakes just by nature of the fact that we're human beings. And so, one day we discovered G-Accon and I'm like, oh my gosh, it takes the time out of the equation, but it also takes the errors out of the equation as well. And so, having a G-Accon and a great bookkeeper that you can rely on, when you get something like G-Accon and a great bookkeeper, then we're set up for success as fractional CFOs. And I would argue we're dead in our tracks without having a partnership like that with G-Accon and a great bookkeeper.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that in the olden days, when I first started out, the data I was providing to clients was 18 months old. Like I just couldn't get it any closer to that because of the way everything was working. So to live in this time where we can get timely data that's 24 hours old is quite exciting. So can you discuss, and you have talked about this to a great extent, but is there anything else you'd like to share about how CFOs, fractional CFOs should utilize G-Accon with their clients? So you've talked about the automation side of it, simplifying development of reports and automating, maybe sending them out. Is there any other aspects that you would raise there?
It really depends on your scope of work as a fractional CFO. And sometimes I'll describe our industry of fractional CFOs as the wild, wild west of the finance space, because there are no regulations governing it. There is no rule or law that says fractional CFOs shall do A, B, C, D each month for their clients, like CPA work is. You know, when you do an audit, it's very much like, this is an audit, this is how it goes, this is how you do it, this is the output. That doesn't exist for the work that we do in the advisory space and specifically around fractional CFOs right now. And so I would just encourage the listeners, get really, really clear on what your scope of work is. And then I know nobody likes to do this. I don't like doing it. It's worth its weight in gold though. Do a time audit as you're preparing your deliverables for your client each month, and just look for those places where you're spending time on things like report generation and analytics. And just ask yourself, gosh, look in G-Accon's library of all the pre-made templates and reports they have. And what I like to say is go in there, not looking to duplicate those reports necessarily, but use those reports as inspiration for how you could take them, make some tweaks and make them your own, so that you can, again, reduce the time investment that you're spending each month on those reports for your clients. And equally importantly, how you can reduce the opportunity for errors to go into that process. So what my firm does and how we use G-Accon may be very different than how your firm could leverage it in other ways or better ways, or ways that'll get an even larger return on investment. So just, again, just really understand what your scope of work is. Do that time audit to understand where you and your team, if you have a team, are investing time, and ask yourself, gosh, based on all these great things that G-Accon can do, how could we outsource that, so to speak, right to G-Accon and have it automated?
Absolutely. I did like that comment of referring to the fractional CFOs as the wild, wild west of accounting. I think we could rebrand the accountants the wild, wild west. So in your podcast, the CFO Report, you tell the story of how you wasted $100,000 in advertising spend, and then went on to share the actual importance of building partnerships. So how important is it to you to partner with smart technology?
Well, there's an interesting balance here. So the quick question is, it's really, really important. But I think what you said, like smart technology, the right technology, is where we really should spend our time on this conversation, because there's a million and one different platforms out there, technology options that could in some way, shape, or form fit into the wild, wild west fractional CFO work that we all do. But here's the truth. And again, I've been doing this over 8 years in my firm, and then I've coached 1,000 some odd fractional CFO firm owners now. So this comes from a place of data-backed opinion. What most of those platforms end up becoming is a distraction. It's a distraction from doing the work that really matters. And so your one word there, Heather, is really important. What is that smart technology? What is that technology that doesn't just look sexy or sound cool or you know, just kind of feels like, oh wait, this is really neat? The question we've got to be asking ourselves is, how does this technology produce better outcomes for our clients? How does it inform our clients and equip them to make better decisions in their business? And or how does it save our firm time and reduce the opportunity for errors? It really just boils down to those few really important questions. And if there's not an easy answer to how it addresses the client outcomes or the firm's return on investment, I would really encourage you, let it just be an easy no. Say, hey, this is a really cool platform, but this isn't the platform that's going to move my firm forward or move my clients' outcomes forward, and just say no to those things. And so a lot of times people come to me and they say, well, what's your tech stack? What do you use? And I'm like, we're kind of basic. We really prefer QuickBooks when we can. Now as you work with bigger clients in different industries, ERP things come up. You're not going to avoid that. But like, gosh, we really like QuickBooks. If we have to, we'll use Xero. No shade to the Xero fans out there. We're in the US. Xero is great for other countries, I know, and multi-currencies. But QuickBooks, we use Google Sheets. We use G-Accon to automate the report generation. We use Ignition for billing and invoicing. And above and beyond that, we spend most of our time on the insights and the perspectives for our clients. So we just keep things really basic, and we focus on outcomes that really move our clients' success forward. And that has served us really well over the last 8 years. And I would say that's why we're still around. And a lot of other firms aren't still around. We keep that tech stack really smart and really simple. The other benefit to that, Heather, that I think a lot of people undervalue is the more tech you add to your firm, the more training you've got to do when you hire more people, the more troubleshooting you've got to do along the way, the more opportunities for APIs and integrations to break down because, Facebook changed this or this other platform changed that, and now Zapier is not talking. And I'm like, how do we just eliminate all of that stuff? And that comes from simplicity, keeping it down to those just, half a dozen or so really critical platforms. Now, I will say this. It doesn't matter how simple you keep the platform. Things are going to bug from time to time. And it's another reason that I just love working with G-Accon and their team is their customer support is probably second to none. And so when our team's working, at end of day and we're trying to get something out the door before we go home and something does glitch out, we email the support email for G-Accon, and literally normally within minutes, somebody from their team has responded and they do a great job of, hey, this is what you need to do to fix it. Or, hey, we're aware there's a problem. We're working on it. This is when you can expect the problem to be fixed. And as a business owner, not even a fractional CFO, as a business owner, I can't ask for a better response than that. And again, we've been working with G-Accon for years, and that's what their response level has been like for years. And that's why we keep working with them. So yeah, the platform works great day to day, but what happens when things go wrong? That's when you really can tell who a good partner is. And that's where G-Accon has always showed up for us is, on those support questions, they're just right on top of it. So again, my encouragement for everybody is smart technology, outcomes for your clients, return on investment for your firm, say no to the rest. They're probably just distractions.
Yeah, absolutely. I have this list. It's like 30 long of all the criteria you should use to choose tech solutions. And the number one is always support over price. Support is where it's at. So that's really great to hear. And I think accountants love their spreadsheets. They always have loved their spreadsheets since, like, I started on Lotus 123, which is probably way before everyone here, but love their spreadsheets. And so it's a G-Accon is an easy solution to adopt because it's so spreadsheet based. A lot of the things are quite intuitive. Now, I'm wondering, Michael, are you able to share with us a short case study or client example of someone who you've been able to successfully use G-Accon to help them achieve their goals?
Sure. So inside of our community, the Inner Circle, we've got, 250 or so fractional CFO firms in there. We're constantly talking about how we use G-Accon and those kind of things to our community. And I can't begin to tell you the number of people inside that community of fractional CFOs that have been able to implement G-Accon in their firms. And then they come back and they're like, I didn't recognize how much time I was wasting trying to set up reports and do all these things manually. And what they've ended up telling us time and time again, Heather, is because we've been able to implement these automations, I've been able to go out and get more clients without having to hire more people. And so you invest literally tens of dollars a month on G-Accon, and you're saving thousands of dollars a month on hiring help to come in and service your clients or manually put together reports. And I'm like, where in the world are you going to be able to go and get like a literal 100x return on investment month after month after month after month than something like G-Accon? And so, yeah, there's plenty of those people inside our Inner Circle community that you can see in our technology channel. We have a channel in our private Slack group that's dedicated just to technology. I think I might change that name though, Heather, from technology to smart technology, because I think people need to be asking that question and a little bit more often. But we've had so many clients that, and students go through G-Accon's onboarding process, and they just don't leave because it works. And it's one of those technologies that I think is a little bit of a sleeper. It's easy to sleep on it and to miss it, because it's one, like, you set it up and you kind of forget it's there. You kind of forget it's there because and I think that's a sign of smart technology. It's one of those that just works and you're not thinking about it all the time. And so there's, again, dozens and dozens, maybe 100 or more out of the 250 that have implemented and just let it run in the background. And they're saving money every month and headache every month by running it.
Fantastic. I was walking by a dentist and he had advertised on his shop front, "We use smart technology in this dentist." And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I want to go to a dentist that uses smart technology. I wonder if my dentist is using smart technology. So it is, to some people, something that could be in your advertising and sort of your branding, that you actually do use smart technology. Now, Michael, I've also heard you talk about artificial intelligence and large language models such as ChatGPT. How do you think they are redefining the opportunities for fractional CFOs?
I'm a bit of a contrarian on
You
some
can
of
be a contrarian.
the AI, LLM technology right now. And I'm going to go back and just anchor again on what I said earlier. When you're evaluating any technology, it goes back to two things for me. Is it creating better outcomes for our clients? And is it helping our firm operate more efficiently, right? For just to kind of summarize it, we've talked about it before. And so then the question becomes, well, how can AI and LLMs today help us in those two endeavors? And I don't see the technology as being there yet. Do I think the technology is going to get there? Yes. Are there people that are out there kind of testing it and playing with it and finding some things? Yes, there's some things that are happening out there. But again, when you boil it down to the fundamentals, it's like, well, how can you use ChatGPT to analyze financial statements and help provide more in-depth, better outcomes for your clients? It's kind of not there yet. And so I would say, keep your eye on it. Keep watching the YouTube videos and listen to the podcasts where they're talking about it. It's not there quite yet. Now, if you're somebody that's a fractional CFO and you're looking to maybe get into a new industry and you're not really familiar with that industry and that industry has some specific nuance, ChatGPT can have some good insights to get started. I'll give you an example. Let's say that throughout your career, you've primarily served, let's say restaurants and retail shops, and you're thinking about making a shift and starting to provide services to the SaaS industry. Well, the KPIs and the metrics from restaurants or retail are significantly different than the ones that are important to the SaaS industry. And so you might go to ChatGPT as you're evaluating the opportunity, because maybe you've had 5 or 6 people come to you and say, "Hey, I'd love to work with you. Do you serve SaaS?" And you're like, "I don't really touch SaaS." You might go to ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, I'm a fractional CFO that has served the restaurant industry for the last 15 years. I'm thinking about serving SaaS. What are 15 metrics that are unique to SaaS that I would need to understand as a fractional CFO? And then ChatGPT will, kind of produce a list of 15 metrics. And that could be a good starting point for you to start familiarizing yourself with the industry. Starting point. That's not the list of 15 things that's going to make you a great fractional CFO for SaaS, but it could give you a starting point. But for me, dumping financials in there and having them analyze tables and do trend analysis and those things, I'm just not seeing enough tangible outcomes from it yet to justify the time investment that it takes to go in there and play with it, because you can't just dump a table in there and it just give you the world's best answer. Like, you've got to know how to talk to ChatGPT. And so, like I said earlier, Heather, it ends up becoming a distraction. And we really need to be focused on client outcomes, not on playing with ChatGPT for Omega or whatever the little O stands for in the newest model. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on those outcomes. Keep another eye on YouTube and watch as some of the gurus that have the time to invest and see what those latest, greatest things are. But right now, I'm like, just stay focused on creating outcomes for your clients on what works. So no haterade on AI or LLMs. I don't think it's there yet for the fractional CFO industry.
I think you shared some great starter tips there, and again, I'd encourage people to subscribe to Michael's podcast, the CFO Report, because I'm sure that as soon as it's there, he'll be telling us on the podcast. Now,
we're on YouTube as well.
Oh, you're on YouTube as well.
It's the same material. So if you prefer video over audio only, check us out on YouTube at the CFO Report.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. I always listen to podcasts while I'm walking, so I can't do the videos at the same time, so I don't know about the YouTubes that are happening. Sonia, just a reminder, you might want to put up the sliders as I move to the next session. So as we're moving towards the end of today's session, I'd like to thank each of our speakers, Michael and Sonia, for joining us on this webinar. And can I ask each of you, what is one thing that you would like people to take away from today's session? And how can people get in contact with you? And Michael, how can people find out about your Fractional CFO coaching course and community?
Sure, I'll start. So I'll answer those questions in reverse order. If you want to learn more about me and our community and some of the courses and things we have, you can go to thecfoaccelerator.com. We've got a free newsletter that goes out every Friday, and I pour a lot of time and energy into the free content on our podcast and YouTube channel. So you can check those out absolutely free as well. So the first question you asked, Heather, what's one thing that I hope people take away from this? If you are thinking about getting into advisory services, if you're somebody that's been in the finance and accounting world for decades, and you're like, I really want to be able to offer more insights and perspectives, I would argue that there is no industry in the world that has the opportunity to create more impact for more people than the fractional CFO industry. Because what you have to remember is it's not just helping the business owners increase their revenues or their profitabilities or cash flows, but you're also helping those businesses hire more people and pay those people higher wages. And then that ends up impacting their families. They end up hiring more vendors, and then those vendors are able to hire more people and do all these other great things. And so the opportunities, if you're an impact-driven person in our industry, the opportunities to create impact as a fractional CFO are second to none. So I would encourage you, just take a harder look at what fractional CFO work might look like for you, because you have some amazing insights and knowledge, in the small business community around the world needs those so that they can stay in business and have the impact that they should have. So there's my shameless plug for our industry, but boy, I love it. And we do important work.
We welcome your shameless plug. We absolutely welcome it. And there's so many people who are contemplating the journey and they feel that they don't have the skill set to start it. And I'm like, you have it. You absolutely have it. Then maybe they need to join a community like yours to bounce off other people and give them the confidence to move along on that journey. And Sonia, and Sonia, what's one thing you'd like the community to leave from this, learn or take away from this webinar?
Yeah, well, I guess piggybacking on both what you and Michael just said, a lot of people in the accounting and finance space, I mean, you know, specifically CFOs, Michael, I've had a lot of people come to me directly from you. So it's awesome, actually, the way your community has fostered that entire support there. But getting back to what you guys were saying, where things might seem intimidating, it might seem like you don't have the tools at your hands. It might seem like you don't have the particular skills to get started with things. Just taking, you know, the few moments at the beginning to really learn what's in front of you, understand that you do have the tools there. You've got the communities there. You've got the knowledge base there. It's just a matter of, you know, learning it, seeing how it might work best for you and your business. And from there, you know, it's a whole lot easier than you might expect. And, you know, using tools like G-Accon, using that smart tech will save you, you know, time, money, and, you know, give you that opportunity to actually dedicate your time to things like Michael was saying, where you can really go ahead and utilize your time on something more than figuring out a spreadsheet. So yes, absolutely use the resources that you have available to you, because, you know, we're all here to help out. So.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank our guest panelists and everyone at G-Accon and Earmark who assisted in the development and production of this session. I'd like to encourage everyone to connect with my fellow speakers on LinkedIn. I have dropped in their profiles in the chat area. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Today's topic was driving 7-figure success with G-Accon, your fractional CFO's tool of choice. I'm Heather Smith and I've been your host for today's session. And now Earmark are going to play a video to explain to you how you can get CPE for listening to today's webinar.
Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.